Starfield has been out for over a week now, and having sink in loads of hours into the game, I thought it was time to give it a decent review. And this will be honest, exactly my thoughts, my opinions, no sugarcoating. Overall, the game is pretty damn good. It is loads of fun, there is absolutely a phenomenal amount of things to do, and if you are a fan of Bethesda games, such as Fallout, Skyrim, you will enjoy Starfield. That is just the main crux of it. If you like Bethesda games, you will love Starfield. Now, drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and stick around for much more Starfield content, because that is what we do here. We upload twice a day, once at 7 PM and once at 9 PM UK time. Now, first things first is the storyline. The storyline is great. It is loads of fun, there is loads to do, and you learn a hell of a lot about yourself. Your main character, I mean, not you as a human, because, well, it'd be a strange game if you did. Pretty cool if you did. But you learn loads, and the overall dialogue and the tone is built to give you that sense of, I can do what I want when I want. Unfortunately, that is a facade. You can't actually do what you want when you want. You can go and explore, you can go and do what you want with certain characters, you can go wherever you want in the galaxy, and that is great. That is a brilliant part of exploration and part of Starfield. But when it comes to the dialogue choices, you are given the false illusion of choice, which is a massive shame. You don't really have too much that impacts the overall story and changes things towards the end. Sure, you can piss off one faction and not be able to work with them, but overall, there is not too much of a variation. You can choose different dialogue lines, but it seems like the characters will always pull you back into the dialogue that they want. You normally get 4 options, sometimes less, but if you pick one that isn't part of the main story or pushing you in the direction that the story wants you to go, it will leave that option open and you'll have to come back to that in a separate part of the conversation. So there is not really too much freedom when it comes to that main story dialogue. It will always push you in the direction that it wants you to go, which I think is a big shame. I would have loved to seen some sort of immersion like with Fallout, especially Fallout New Vegas, where you can really change the end of the storyline and change how the game progresses completely by doing different things throughout. And obviously the size and the scope of the game is already massive. So I think that could potentially be one of the reasons that they didn't go down that path, where you have a massive change to all the endings and a massive change to the overall game as it progresses. But it is a shame. Next up is the exploration. Now that is a big part of Starfield, especially when it comes to your ships flying around to different planets. It is loads and loads of fun. Yes, there was an issue, people complaining about the actual boundary effect, which doesn't really matter. How it works currently in the game is you'll land your ship on a planet and it will generate a tile, and then you can explore that tile. That tile is massive. You need to run in a continuous straight line for around about 20-25 minutes to actually reach that border. So there is still loads to do. You're not in reality going to be just jumping off your ship and running in a straight line to try and find the border. You're going to come across different things. And yes, there are planets out there that are completely barren, with just resources, no enemies, no nothing. And those are hostile planets, which I think is good. That adds that sense of realism. You are in space, it is vast, it is open, you are alone, and it is scary. That is what it's meant to feel like. And I think they've captured that quite well. It works really nicely. Some planets you can go to that are very heavily inhabited. Some planets you can go to which are full of people, buildings, structures, loads of different things there. So I think they've nailed it with that exploration aspect. Some of the areas that you can go to are pre-generated, which I think is great. But there are certain ones that you go to and the interior is the same. So you'll reach a outpost, a listing post. But you'll come across those on several different planets. And unfortunately, that procedural generation aspect doesn't really come in on those. They are handcrafted, so they look cool, but you can come across 1 or 2 of those on each system. So over the hundreds of systems that you'll be visiting, you will go to the same location multiple times, which I understand with the scope, but it is a little bit disappointing. Another disappointment is the map. There is no actual ground map, and I know some people have said that that adds to the immersion and they like that. But when it comes to places like Alpha Centauri, the main city, I don't want that. The main city in Alpha Centauri, sorry. I want that map. I want to be able to see the detail. I think a 3D map would look phenomenal. of these main cities. I think it would look absolutely amazing. Same with vehicles. I don't understand why there wasn't a vehicle system added. It'd be really cool to have a ship that just drops down and there's a little buggy in it. So when you are exploring these planets for the resources, I think that would be really, really fun and just engage you that little bit more rather than running from A to B. Obviously, the boost pack does help streamline this a little bit, but I think having some form of vehicle would have been nice. Yes, granted, with the tiles, you would reach the end a lot quicker, but it just makes things a little bit fun, a little bit more smooth. And on the topic of planets and systems, the looks, the graphics, they are great. They are by no means absolutely top-notch, don't get me wrong. Even if you have an absolutely beast of a system, the game still looks beautiful, but there are games out there that do look better. It looks beautiful, don't get me wrong. It is in like the top end of games, but there are games out there that if you are going for just those looks, you can find games that look better. And I don't think that's a problem, especially for a lot of people these days. Some people are going back to those older games with those downscaled graphics for the storyline. And for me personally, graphics aren't everything. I want to feel captivated by the storyline, and I want to enjoy what I'm doing. It doesn't have to look beautiful. And don't get me wrong, the game does look beautiful, especially in certain places. But having that there, I don't think it really matters. The game draws you in regardless of that beauty, and there are places that you go where you get off your ship and you will think, wow, this looks absolutely awesome. And then another thing is the fast travel system. Now, I have spoke about this in a previous video. The fast travel system is a bit of a ball ache. You do spend a lot of your time in Starfield navigating through menus, be that sorting out your inventory, sorting out fast travel, or creating outposts and ships. The latter two are a great part of the game, but we'll go into that in just a second. I don't see the issue with the whole fast traveling thing. If you do like that immersion and not having to fast travel, there are ways that you can negate it. You can run to your ship from certain locations, you can take your ship off planets, and you can actually fly from one planet to another. Somebody did do it, but it took them around about 7 hours. Real world time, not in game, so it does take a hell of a long time, but it is doable. So I don't think that fast travel option is really too much of an issue. Yes, granted, some people don't like it, and it does take a little bit of that immersion out of it. I think it would have been cool to actually look at a planet, set a course on it, and just boom it through, and without going into any of those menus. But unfortunately, it is what it is. There is a way that you can negate it again by using the navigation table, which just make things feel a little bit more realistic, and rather than jumping through menus off and on again. Now, combat is fun. Combat is something that you will be doing a lot of in Starfield. Not just ground combat, but also space combat. Ground combat is loads of fun. Towards the start of the game, the enemy AI is a little bit dumb, and it can be really, really easy. Once you've got that initial load of resources and weapons, you will find it relatively easy, especially compared to ship combat. That is much more difficult than ground combat, but it is fun. There is loads of different ways that you can encounter scenarios, especially when you use your aid and all the different multitude of weapons that we've got. The weapons and the gear are great. There is so much of them, and when you do hit that new game plus menu, you get much more of those weapons and gear. But overall, it is fun. The enemies are a little bit boring. They don't have too much of a sense. As you progress through the story, they do get a little bit more complicated. They use tactics a little bit better, and obviously you can change your difficulty as well to make it a bit more difficult and enjoy it as more of a hardcore aspect than the slow, boring shootout that lasts a couple of seconds. So that all depends on your playstyle. But ship combat, that is where the combat in this game really shines through. It is very, very difficult to get to grips with at first. It is easier on a controller if you are playing keyboard and mouse, but it is so much fun. And the possibilities with ship combat are endless. You can do loads of awesome stuff. All the way down to that targeting system, targeting ships directly and annihilating them through different means, taking out engines so you can board the ship and take it for your own. It is loads and loads of fun. That is by far one of my favourite aspects of the game. That is the same as the ship building. Ship building is great. The only downside to it, especially for people that don't have much time to sit and play the game for hours and hours upon end, is it will take you a couple of hours to build yourself that really cool ship that you want. And unfortunately, when you are building a ship, it can be a bit of a pain because some items don't lock in, some things you can't do, and if your ship isn't flight ready, you can't save it. So you do have to build your ship from start to at least flight ready stage before you can exit that build menu. So it can be a bit of a problem. Now, that is outposts as well. Now, those are really cool. That is similar to the Fallout 4 building system, and outposts are great. I haven't had too much of a mess around with them, but I enjoy them. It is fun, and from what I've seen so far, you can do absolutely loads with them, especially when it comes to storing resources, sending companions there to do loads of work themselves, and making a shite ton of cash. Overall, Starfield is an absolutely phenomenal game. Will it make Game of the Year? That is yet to be seen. I do hope so. They did just reach 6 million players, 6 million overall players, I believe it was. And the game is loads and loads of fun. I'm absolutely loving it. I will recommend this game to anyone and everyone. Does it have its downsides? Yes, of course it does. Is it buggy? No, not really, which is surprising for a Bethesda title. There are little bugs here and there, but nothing major. Overall, the game is absolutely phenomenal. And if, like I said at the beginning of the video, you are a fan of those Bethesda titles, you will love this game. You will get immersed, and you will spend hours upon hours, be that exploring, in combat, shipbuilding, or outpost crafting. There is so much to do, so much to keep you going, and with the game's New Game Plus system, you can continually play for hours upon hours. The game does change ever so slightly with each game, and you get more resources and better weapons and equipment as you progress through those New Game Plus stages. So overall, Starfield is a phenomenal game. I absolutely love it. It does have some slight downsides, but nothing major. Hopefully you've enjoyed today's video. If you have, drop a like on it, subscribe to the channel, and stick around for much more Starfield content. For now though, I've been Cowboy, you've been awesome, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.